This is the Soul Expansion Soundboard, an hour of honest conversations and straightforward advice on spiritual growth, limitless creation, and enlightened evolution, with two certified spiritual coaches and soulpreneurs who understand what it's like to navigate spiritual growth in an ever-changing world. You'll be part of illuminating discussions featuring spirituality, self-development, inner healing, manifesting, and expansive creation of the abundant life you truly deserve. Now, here are your hosts, Roz Kincaid and Julian Crosson-Hill.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. We're back with another episode of the Soul Expansion Soundboard. I am your co-host, Roz Kincaid, the Soul Healer, as well as the Intuitive Soul Empowerment Coach. And I'm happy to be with y'all today. Hey, Julian.
Hey, I'm Julian Crosson-Hill. I'm a spiritual life and business coach and human design specialist. And I'm excited to be talking about this topic today.
Absolutely. So today, y'all, we are going to be getting into frustration. I know y'all know what I'm talking about. I know y'all feel it all the time. I'm sure Julian is going to talk about this a bit, but as a human design generator, like we be feeling that shit and all the way hard. So today we're going to give you some strategies and talk around frustration and how to deal with it, because as the title suggests, it is your spiritual check engine light. And so first of all, let me just say that Julian and I are rocking the red. I had no idea this man was gonna wear red, but red was in my spirit, and I turned this camera on, y'all, and we both are wearing red, which tells me somebody out in this TV land, in this podcast land, in this YouTube land, spiritual community needs to be working on their root chakra. And it's funny because stuff like frustration, anger, guess where that lives, y'all? Right in your root chakra. And here we are wearing all this damn red. This is funny. I listen, y'all, we can't make this stuff up. We cannot make this stuff up. So I hope you are seeing the signs and taking care of yourself and doing some self-care and self-maintenance. There is a difference between the two. So make sure you are engaging and taking care of your energy.
Yeah.
The place that I want to dive into with this today is I want to differentiate between frustration and anger, because I think that we kind of get the two confused, right? And what you want to understand is that frustration is it's all feelings, right? It's all energy. It all comes from thought. It's all triggered from outside influences. But how I would best describe frustration is that feeling of discouragement or disappointment that can result from some kind of setback, an obstacle or block, or something is not moving forward in your life, and you feel that feeling of helplessness and powerlessness and disappointment. And then anger could be like the outward expression of that, where you're kind of having a little bit of an adult tantrum, and so you have to be able to gauge what you're feeling and be the observer of what you're feeling as well, so that you can know how to deal with it and move forward. Julian, your thoughts on that?
Well, I've got lots of thoughts on this. And the first thing that comes up with the frustration and anger thing is I'm a manifesting generator. And in human design, if you're a manifesting generator, your emotional themes are frustration and anger. And so I notice for me that frustration often triggers the anger. So I don't make customer service phone calls. Like I don't talk to the insurance company, any of that stuff, because when they start to do their bureaucratic stuff and I get frustrated that I'm not getting whatever I need resolved, I start to get really angry and I take it out on the person on the other end of the phone. And so my husband has recognized that part of my nature and has basically said, I'm going to make those phone calls because you're not going to get anywhere, because as soon as you get frustrated, you're going to get pissed off and start just blowing fire at these people. So I think if you're a manifesting generator, it's a little more confusing, the difference between frustration and anger, because one does trigger the other for us. And so they tend to kind of feel more like they're the same thing, even though, as Ross said, they're very different. And it's usually the frustration comes first and it triggers the anger, but sometimes it can feel like they're sort of bleeding into one another for us. So I think the thing that, like, talking about frustration, really sensing into this, that comes up for me is, in human design, we teach that generators and manifesting generators, the sacral defined types, which about 70% of you experience frustration. And particularly generators, their quantum purpose is to create mastery over time. So they're really designed to do the work of the world and like work at things and really get fucking good at it. And when they are doing that, it's sort of a stair-step progression. You make a big growth spurt and then things kind of plateau. And that plateau is what sort of causes the frustration to start to rise in a generator. And the thing that's the trick for the generator is sometimes they give up because of the frustration right before the next thing. And so something Karen Curry Parker says is that frustration equals momentum. If you're feeling frustrated, it means you're gaining momentum towards that next like progression. But I think that there's another part to this, another piece of discernment here. And it's really asking yourself, is the frustration a sign of momentum? Like that I'm just getting frustrated because I'm not to the level I want to be yet, and that I need to like wait it out and get there? Or is frustration a sign that you're doing the wrong thing? That you're like beating your head against the wall and trying to make something work that isn't going to work? Because I really think that they're two different aspects of frustration. And, as a generator, it's really about leading into your human design and being like, why am I doing this thing? Does it feel good in my body to begin with? Because if it still feels good, even with the frustration, then keep doing it. Frustration is a sign of momentum. If it doesn't feel good in your body and it doesn't make you be like, hell yeah, I'm doing this, then the frustration is because you're trying to make something work that isn't really going to work for you. And so I think that there's a real distinction there. And of course, for the other non-sacral types, frustration really should be a sign, why am I doing this?
Like, what am I doing? What are we doing? That's
Yeah.
and I'm glad you mentioned about the giving up part. Because I'm gonna be very transparent with y'all. There have been many a day that I have said, fuck this shit. I'm not doing it. I'm throwing it in the trash. And I'm talking about me being a coach, me being a healer, me being an entrepreneur, and throwing it all away. And it's not because I'm detaching from the people, but like there's a lot that goes into all of this. Showing up,
Yeah.
being on social media, providing for you all, holding space for y'all, doing our own work just to be able to be a few steps ahead of you so that we can help you and support you and connecting with spirit. Like I'm listen, like I said, there are days and they come and go where I just want to just stop and quit. And what you said, Julian, about checking in and leaning into your design. And for those people who don't even know what human design is, just checking in with yourself and saying, what are we doing? Is this what I really want to be doing? Though I'm frustrated, though I have thorns in my sides and there are bumps in the road, let me zoom out just a bit and look at the big picture and check in with my soul, not my brain, not my ego, not the voice that's bantering back and forth in my mind, and checking in and saying, do I still want to do this? Like, do I still have a passion and love for what I'm doing when I do it? And every time I do that, y'all, I think back or go through all of my notes because I'm a note taker, and I look and I go to my calendar and I go to my social media. Not that I'm looking for like validation, but I need that thing that tells me, girl, you been doing this. This is what you're doing. This is the stair
Yeah.
step. And even if you don't, you're not a coach and you don't own a business or what have you, whatever goal you're pursuing, that's the check-in that you need to be taking to say, look at how far I've come. Sometimes you do need to look back and look how far you've come to say, damn, I made a lot of progress. I think I can keep on keeping on and see what the end is going to look like. Like, the end is not a destination. It's really not a goal, but it's the journey getting there that becomes
Yeah.
the lesson through which we work out our frustration, and it starts to fizzle out just a little bit. So yeah, what you said, Julian, about hanging in there with it and checking in, that is very real, and it happens to everybody,
Yeah.
whether a lot of us want to sit up and show it on social media or portray it and share it to the world or not. Everybody gets pissed off and frustrated about shit, and like, don't overlook it because it's helping you actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely like a sign to really like check in and be like, why am I doing this? Do I really want to be doing this? Or am I giving up too soon? Like, do I need to keep at it? And checking in with the body is really how you do that. The mind isn't going to be able to really answer that question for you. It's like, how does doing this feel in my body? Yeah, I'm frustrated, but in my body, maybe I really like doing it. Maybe when I do a good job with it, when I get through the frustration and the project that I'm working on is done, or I've put together the IKEA bookcase or whatever it is that's frustrating us, we're like, wow, that's really great. I love it. And we have that like moment of satisfaction, which is sort of the other side of in human design of the generator and manifesting generator frustration, is when they push through and have that achievement. It's this deep soul level satisfaction that you feel in your whole body. Like if you've ever done something and pushed through the frustration and completed it and then been like, damn, that is great. I feel so good that I achieved this. That's what I'm talking about that kind of like deep in your bones satisfaction. And that's super, super important. I've talked before about what I call the EBFJs, right? The expectations, blames, fears, and judgments. And expectation is where frustration comes in because we have certain expectations about our abilities and about what the outcome of action that we're taking is going to be. And when our expectations don't align with our reality, we experience frustration. What you got on that, Roz? I see.
Amen. Amen. Like you gotta check in. There was something that you said, and I lost it, but I'll come back. Oh, checking in with your body. Um, like
Yeah.
that is always key. You gotta check in with your body, and some of the ways that frustration can show up is getting a headache. Like I will get a headache. Me personally, I will get a headache like right behind my right eye, right? Muscle aches, stomach aches, constipation, right? Being irritable, just being sad and depressed. People will even r- resort to apathy. Like I don't give a fuck. I just don't even care, which is worse than like anger, if you ask me. Or withdrawing or lashing out or playing this script or this song or this record over and over in your head that perpetuates negative thoughts and negative self-talk. Like check in with all of that. Like y'all, I don't know how. Listen, I'm gonna be saying this until pigs start to fly, and even after that, it's like you have to check in with your body when you start to observe and notice that I'm feeling some resistance here, and it's frustrating me, and you need to go right into the body and identify that and start to move some of that energy, or at least be with it. um the other thing that you mentioned about the what is it? EBFJs, the expectations
Yeah.
not aligning with your reality. It's not. I think that the frustration comes in with not so much as it's not with reality where the problem lies. And I'm not saying that we can't change reality, but I think that we got to check in with the expectations, because your expectations could be way up here.
Yeah.
And it's all right to have, that pie in the sky, hopefulness, all that. I'm not discounting that, but I think what a lot of times happens is that people have their expectations set so high and they're immovable. They don't want
Yeah.
to allow the expectations to be flexible and to kind of balance that with what's going on in reality. Because if you don't, you will get reality will step up and come give you that check in the gut and be like, nah, bitch, this ain't what we doing right now. You need to step back. That's like me trying to go buy a $30,000 car, and I don't even make enough money to even qualify, and saying, well, God's gonna work it out. Yeah, he will, but you gonna have to work out your reality too. You have to work out your expectations and get them more in line with what's going on right now, the reality of your situation. Is not I'm not saying that what you are trying to attain is unattainable, but come on, girl, be real. Be real, and lower that down a little bit, and then start to make moves to step it back up to that grand vision that you have. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to like tear nobody down, because I get over ambitious too. Okay. And I think that I can go fly and like coyote trying to chase the road runner with the fake ass wings. Then he jumps off the cliff and he is face down in the dirt at the bottom. Like, sir, did you really think that was going to be possible right now for you?
Yeah, I think the thing about expectation is it's a lot about the expectations we put on ourselves, right? I mean, this is really where perfectionism comes in, because we have certain
Mhm.
expectations of what our abilities are or what we should be turning out as our work product. We take other people's expectations about us on. So, and I have done this in my life. My parents were really pushed us kids to excel at things, and my dad in particular. And I took on a lot of expectations, which made me a perfectionist. And that was one of the things I had to let go of to be successful in my business, because new in business, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to be perfect. The first time you go to edit a video, you're not going to have the skills to do it perfectly. But we put these really high expectations on what it's got to be. And I think in spiritual business, we do this too. So we think about making video for YouTube or for Instagram, and we put these expectations on us that it's got to look super polished and it's got to be this perfect video that looks like, you know, other people's videos who probably are hiring a professional to do their video, maybe. I mean, or they've been doing it for a longer time than you have. And so when we take on other people's expectations or set our own expectations of ourselves too high, then that's one of the things that frustration is trying to tell us, to check those expectations. Are they even our expectations, or are we taking on other people's expectations of us? And if they are our expectations, why have we set the bar that high for ourselves? Why aren't we showing ourselves some more grace in allowing ourselves to be human and to learn and to grow and to develop?
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing that plays into what you were saying, in addition to perfectionism, is this comparison thing that we do. We see somebody else doing what we want to be doing, and we expect that our success is going to be the same thing, not having any awareness or any idea of the journey that went into all of that. So to compare yourself, or do this comparison thing at the level of I can do it too. Yes, you can do it too, but understand what it took for that person to get there. And then on the other end of that, I can't do it because they're doing it too, or I'm not good enough. And that will frustrate you too, but it will also keep your ass stuck. And if you continue in that pattern, in that way of thinking, then you'll never get anything done. You're gonna be frustrated all your life, not doing anything, not achieving anything, not evolving. Not evolving. And I said it on the soundboard, in one episode or one live that um oh Lord, I forgot. But the point I'm trying to make is you cannot compare yourself to other people one way or another, whether they're successful or whether you don't think you're successful, because it will lead you to frustration. It will lead you to frustration, and it will keep you stuck and inert.
Yeah, absolutely. So frustration should be sort of a signal that maybe your expectations are out of whack or you're
Mhm.
doing something that's just not really aligned for you to be doing. And I think that's really important. And the perfectionism really keeps us from even attempting it, right? When we allow our expectations to be so high that we feel like we have to do something perfect or we're going to be frustrated with it, then what it does is actually prevent us from even making the attempt. We don't even try things because we can't do them perfectly, which keeps us stuck. It keeps us stuck in whatever we're doing currently. It keeps people from starting businesses. It keeps people from showing up in video and acquiring clients. It keeps people from changing jobs. It keeps people from starting families. It does all of this because we feel like we have this high expectation and we can't yet achieve that. And I just interviewed Sarah Monroe, who's a fantastic teacher and does a lot of different things here in the Dayton area for my podcast. And one of the things that she talked about, which that episode will come out Tuesday, so check for it. One of the things she talked about was the way you can allow things to stop you. And when you feel so passionate about something you want to do and you can't imagine doing anything else in your life, and we're really starting to talk about spiritual calling here, you can't expect an overnight success out of it. You can't just, we see people on Instagram and we have this idea of overnight success, but we didn't see the 5 years that they struggled to create that success. We don't see all the missteps that they made to get there. And so one of the things that Sarah said that really resonated was there are no overnight successes. People, that's not how humans develop and grow. That we don't go and try something new and instantly get it. I mean, there's a few prodigies like Beethoven, but like how often does a Beethoven really come along? They're not, it's not common. It's rare that that happens. The usual way that people do it is that they develop and grow and practice and they work through the frustration to get to that next level. And so when we're feeling that frustration, one of the things we have to be asking ourselves, again, coming back to expectations, are we expecting overnight success? Are we expecting ourselves to be that one in a million prodigy who's going to do something new and instantly be a breakout success at it? Because that's not realistic. And we need to check that expectation and maybe even ask ourselves why we have that expectation. What is it that's causing us to set the bar so high for ourselves?
Mm-hmm. Could it be our values? That's another thing that we have to check. Like, check your values. Um, Historically, our values are inherited. They're handed down, and they, as you move through life, you have the choice to either drop those family values and create new ones, or keep living with those values. And I think that, in addition to expectations, our values and our, like you said, our beliefs play into, what is causing our frustration. Because if you are continuing to live your life through imposed values, and you are ignoring the fact that those are no longer aligned, then what do you think is gonna pop up when you start to make moves and decisions out of those values that aren't you anymore? You're gonna be frustrated, but and then in turn you'll be resentful. You can't, it could you could risk being resentful to other people. Well, this is what they taught me, and well, my mama did it this way. Well, you don't have to do it that way. You can kill all of that by just making a decision that I no longer value this, and I want this frustration to stop. And I know that I'm making it sound more remedial than what it is, in practice, but it can be that simple. It can be that simple that I'm going to stop this frustration in me because I need to check in with my values, and those values no longer align. So I'm going to value something else. I'm going to pick my own values. Like, you're not a robot, okay? You're not a baby anymore. You're not 7 anymore, right? Your ego is fully developed, but your soul was way more advanced and developed before you even had an ego. And so you can listen to that voice, and you can let that guide you to pick higher values that will take that frustration level down. Like, you don't have to be frustrated. You don't have to be frustrated. You can feel it, you can observe it, but you don't have to live in it. You don't have to be frustrated. It's as simple as turning the light off, working through it, figuring it out. What is this telling? Where is this frustration pointing me, and where is the root of it? Oh, I have this value that I no longer align with, so let me drop that and move on. I think we make it harder for ourselves than it has to be. And I'm saying this coming fresh out of frustration, even just this week, right? I get frustrated a lot. I hit them plateaus a lot, and I think it goes back to understanding what you said earlier, Julian, is about your life stair steps. It's an iterative approach, right? You move up, you plateau, you move up, you plateau. But just think, if you didn't have those plateaus, if you didn't have that frustration, you wouldn't know how to improve things going forward. I'm kind of talking from a IT project manager perspective, but it applies everywhere. Like, your life doesn't just it, beeline to success and beeline to I hit the goal. Like, there's a whole process that has to happen, but you don't have to make it long and drawn out, is what I'm saying. You don't have to make that long and drawn out. So check in with with your values, and figure out where the misalignment is, and where you can make a choice to pick another value. Young Van Zant says, pick another thing, make another choice, pick something else. You have all of this that life is showing you and handing to you on this conveyor buffet style, experience, that you can go pick something else. You don't have to stay stuck with the same thing, y'all. Pick something else. Make another choice.
Yeah, what I really got that, and what I think Roz is talking about there, is what in human design we call conditioning, right? The way we pick up things that aren't us from other people, values that we pick up from our parents or the group of friends that we hang out in, or the neighborhood association, or we do these things where we be inauthentic in order to fit in with groups of people, or because we feel a certain pressure to be something other than we are. And when we come back to our core of who we are authentically, when we decondition and let go of a lot of that, then it sort of opens up new avenues to maybe make different choices, because we look at the things we're frustrated with. Like, maybe we're frustrated that we don't have the new car that is the hot thing that all of our friends want. And when we let go of that value, because we didn't really care about the damn car, it was our friends who did, suddenly the frustration goes away too, because we can make a different choice, one that is more aligned with who we truly are, which is a really beautiful thing. I want to go back to something you said earlier, Roz, because it's something that comes up a lot with my business clients. And you mentioned frustration around feeling like you're copycatting, or that things have already been done. And so, first of all, listen, everything's already been done. It's all been done. Okay. But each of us has our own unique life experience, our own unique perspective. In human design, we say that you're the unique result of a once in a lifetime cosmic event. And so, yes, maybe it's been done before, but it's never been done like you can do it. And that's really important, because yeah, there might be another coach who says the same kinds of things that I do. Hell, sometimes Roz and I say kind of the same things, but we say it very differently. And we have a very different perspective on it that comes from who we are as people, like authentically at our core, talking about like human design, who we are individually as souls, from our life experience, from all of these things, from like the different books that we've read, the different trainings that we've taken, all of this contributes to us having a really unique spin on anything that we do or say. And so even though we may be saying some of the same things, or we may be saying the same things other coaches say, we're doing it in our way. And so don't get caught up on that. Is it really unique? Has it ever been done before? Because everything's been done before. And just like Ross said, it's an iterative process. So can you take something that's been done before, and by putting your unique magic on it, make it new?
It's a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
It's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of how other people are interpreting what you said that's already been done. Like Julian said, there is nothing new under the sun. Okay, everything is been done and overdone. But again, it's a matter of perspective. Your perspective on it, and other people's perception and reception on it. And speaking of perception, there has to be a practice of perceiving frustration as a sign of change. It ain't that God is mad at you. It's not, it's not always that, karma is coming to bite you in the butt. Goody, that's what you get. Now you got to pay for it. It's not, y'all, it's not always that. Like, no, oh God, nobody's out to get you. Okay. Let's get that understood. Nobody is out to get you but you. Okay. And so if we could take some time and switch our perspective about what this frustration is, that might help a little bit. That might help force change and make shifts and kind of help get you unstuck, and that takes practice. Because I know for me, with frustration being my non-self theme as a generator, like I have had to learn that frustration itself is not my enemy. Frustration itself is not, you know, against me, but it's more so as a signal that something needs to change. And for you who don't like change, I hate to tell you, life is ever evolving, and the word evolve means change. So every day something is going to be different. Life is going to change every 4 years. We get a new president, right? The seasons change. So if you're a person that don't like change, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and switch up. And you don't gotta like it, but you need to get with the program, okay? Because things are going to change, and and if you cannot jump in the flow of traffic of change, then you're just gonna be frustrated, okay? And everybody else is gonna be moving on. And not that, I'm trying to like contradict myself and say you should compare yourself, but you are going to get left behind, and it's going to take you longer to reconcile you today with you tomorrow, future you, better you, evolved you. And so if you can allow yourself to look at that situation and look at that frustration from a higher perspective, one, listen, okay, learn to listen to or learn the voice of your higher self. He, she, they are not accusatory. They're not critical. They are not judgmental. They're not shaming. So if you hear a tone of voice that sounds like that, it's not higher self you, and it ain't God. God, yes, there's chastisement for people who still are in the church and believe in the Bible. Yes, God is going to chastise and correct, but higher self, God is not shaming. That is not the voice that you need to put in front of you and follow. Okay? So learn how to recognize the voices that are playing in your mind. Like, and I'm telling you, this is a practice, because not even a few months ago, I was in the situation where I was developing and learning and evolving, and I would get sucked into that voice that would shame me, that would tear me down, that would judge me, that would remind me of past failures, that would remind me that I'm not good enough, that would tell me that lie that I'm not good enough or that I'm not enough. And then all of a sudden, once I started to connect in with soul, connect in with my higher self, who kind of looks like the girl from Vanessa Calloway from Coming to America, by the way. She's glowing in gold. She talks to me and she tells me that you can't listen to that voice. This is what you need to be doing. It's okay that you hear that and that you feel that, but you know better than this. You have to listen to the voice that lifts you up, that motivates you to keep moving, that supports you, that encourages you, that tells you it's okay, that compassionate and empathetic voice. You got to listen to that and not listen to all this yapping over on the side that's that's the Cookie Monster or Groucho, from Sesame Street, trying to keep you in the trash, trying to keep you in the gutter. Work that stuff out. Have those conversations. Talk to yourself. Even as crazy as it sounds, talk to yourself. Have conversations with yourself. Because as my coach taught me, and not just that one coach, but there have been several coaches that have come into my life and says, you have to start to commune and communicate with the you that is highly evolved and that has already made it to where you're trying to go, and figure and find out from her what the answer is, instead of listening to this other voice, instead of being in frustration and not knowing what to do, not knowing how to seek out the answers. And sometimes seeking out the answers mean you just need to just sit your ass down and just chill for a minute and stop what you're doing. And stop with the pushing and the thriving and the striving and trying to make it work and hustle. That, I think that's some of our issue here in the world, is that we don't create enough space and time to really slow down and listen to another voice, another perspective, a higher perspective that is trying to lead and guide us. And so what they got to do is just throw this frustration ball at you. They got to throw frustration into the mix just to get you to, hey, snap out of it. Listen to me over here. It's getting frustrated because I'm trying to get your attention to do something different, to fall into ease and flow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like I agree with everything that you said. Your higher self doesn't speak to you that way, and when our expectations are frustrated, then comes judgment, right? We start judging ourselves, and it can be sort of a reinforcing cycle. But I want to talk about breaking through frustration, because I think it's really important, because a lot of times we get stuck in frustration, and we know that the thing we're doing lights us up. We know we want to do it. We know we're picking up momentum, but how do we get through the frustration? And I think frustration can really be telling you two things there. And there's a little bit of discernment and talking to that higher self that knows the right answer to figure out which way to go. So there's two things that I used to do as a software engineer when I get frustrated with a piece of code, when I was trying to learn something new or trying to solve a problem that was really complicated. One would be I would push through. I would stay up late at night and I would push through. I would try different things. I would experiment. I would, try this, try that, swap out this. Oh, I think it might work this way. I would do that and I would push through. And, it took like a burst of focused concentration, and I would solve the problem and break through the frustration. The problem that a lot of us experience is coming up with that focused burst of concentration, because we're so unfocused sometimes in our life, where we have social media pulling us this way and we have this thing and that thing, and we're trying to do 20 things at the same time. And so when we get frustrated, we don't have that focused burst of concentration to push through it. So I think that that's one approach that can work, is really turn off the phone, put the screens away, use your settings on your computer that like lock you out of everything else, so that you can have that focused time and that deep concentration. And it's really about getting present with the problem, right? I mean, we've talked about presence before. It's about getting grounded into the moment and fully present with the problem, so that you can push through the frustration and find the solution that you're looking for. And so being more present in the moment, getting more mindful of what is the problem? Why am I feeling frustrated? What have I tried? What haven't I tried? And then try some different solutions. So that's one approach. The other approach that I would take as a software engineer when I got frustrated is, if, experimenting wasn't getting me any closer, I'd walk away. I'd say, okay, I'm gonna go work on something else. I'm gonna go watch Netflix for a little bit, and I'll come back to this problem later. And 9 times out of 10, I would leave a problem at the end of the day that I was stuck on. And rather than working late and pushing through, I'd go home, I'd have dinner with my husband, I'd watch Netflix, I'd go to bed. And the next morning in the shower, like the light bulb would go off. And there's the solution, right? Because our subconscious works behind the scenes. Our brain is still thinking about that problem, even when we're not. And sometimes the way to avert the frustration, to turn off the frustration, is to simply walk away and let our brain do its magic. Let it solve the problem for us while we're doing something else, because that works too. And I know lots of software engineers who say the same thing, that when they get stuck, they walk away from the problem and the solution comes to them later in like this flash of inspiration. And so those are the two sort of approaches that I think will really help you push through or not experience frustration, is finding that focused concentration and getting fully present and mindful of the problem, taking an inventory of what you've tried and what you haven't tried, and then being a little experimental, coming back to that idea of beginner's mind, letting go of the idea that you know what the problem is or you know how you're going to solve the problem, and being curious and open to taking a new look at the problem, looking at it through beginner eyes, and then looking at the potential solutions from that same perspective. And then the other approach is, if that doesn't work and you're still feeling the frustration, walk away from it and let your subconscious solve the problem for you. You don't need to be getting frustrated and all hot under the collar, when if you just walk away, your old subconscious will do the work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Problem solved.
There you go. You use your brain in a different way. Use your mind in a different way. In addition to the walking away and stepping away from it, the whole letting go of it is kind of posing a question to source, universe, higher self, whoever. How can this be better? And not trying to answer that on your own, but coming from a place of, I need this to be better. I want this to be better. I don't have the answer is not showing up for me right now. So God, source, goddess, whoever, how can this be better? And then just letting it go. Like really letting it go. Like letting the pot get to a boil, or letting it simmer and go doing something else, like putting the clothes in the washing machine and stepping away. Like who washes clothes and then stands there and watches them wash, unless something's going on that you might need professional help with. Not for real. I'm saying, like, something might be going on, but you don't need to watch the pot. You don't need to watch the laundry wash all the time, but you can put in a query and then wait for the answer, or say a prayer and ask for support, and then go do something else. Like Julian said, go watch Netflix, go get caught up on your shows, go do something else, go for a walk. You have to detach. You have to allow yourself to detach from the thing that is frustrating you in order to create the space for it to come in. You have to create the space in your mind for you to be able to recognize, oh, here's the answer right here. Damn, I could have been, and not, going into a bunch of shame, like I could have been doing this whole time. Now you getting back into that cycle, but like, oh, here it is. I got it. And moving on with that, like you got to take a break from what you're doing. Like I get the pushing through, but for those of us who do that a lot, and that's like part of our nature, and we're doers, and we naturally push through, and it doesn't get us anywhere, like step off for a minute, right? Step off and go take a break. I think you just hit the two biggest ones, and while you're taking a break, like leave it to God, put it above you, and let the Lord handle it. Like my grandmama would say, let the Lord handle it, honey. Like you don't have to figure this out. Because there's an old song that I still hear, that I hear from the church. And while you're trying to figure it out, God has already worked it out. Work It Out. That's the song, Work It Out. And I think Scott Van Pelt on Sports Center uses that as his theme song. But truly, the theme and the message in that song is, while you're trying to figure it out, it's already worked out, and all you need to do is like get into the energy of ease and flow, and like get it off your mind, even just for a little bit, because I know some of us, are wrapped up in this what we call monkey mindset or monkey mind, where our thoughts won't turn off. And like Julian said, put that in the back to the subconscious mind and let that work for you. Like, work it out. let that work to your advantage while you go focus on something else. Go do some arts and crafts or something. I don't know. Just take a break, y'all. You're doing too much. You don't have to be doing all of that. You don't have to have all the answers right now. And maybe that's the signal that frustration is trying to send to you, is like, go take care of yourself right now. You have done all that you can do up to this point. When we need you, we'll call you back. But right now, let go of this frustration and go do something else. We got it from here. We'll call you later. Go sit in the lobby.
I want to revisit what you said about change and the importance of change, and how change can feed frustration. Because we certainly saw this with the election of Donald Trump, right? There was a whole group of people who felt frustrated that the world wasn't still 1950 and that white people weren't the majority and they weren't getting their way with everything. And so they voted for somebody to basically blow it all up. And so, but also, variety is the spice of life. We say that, right? And Abraham Maslow said, if all you have is a hammer, every problem starts to look like a nail. So if you're reading the same kind of books and talking to the same kind of people and watching the same kind of shows and eating the same kind of food, then when you're presented with a novel problem, what kind of solution are you going to come up with? Because your input has all been homogenized to where every problem looks the same to you. And so we become more creative when we give our mind more input. And I mean, this is how artificial intelligence works. Everybody's passing around those profile pictures where the AI makes these great pictures of you. The way that works is they feed a whole bunch of pictures into the AI of all different styles and types, and the AI learns from diverse data. Humans also learn from diverse data. So read something that's not usually something you read. Go eat something that's out of your comfort zone. Look at art that maybe you don't understand. When we let ourselves get into a shell because it's our comfort zone, right? We get in our box and it's comfortable and it doesn't challenge us and it doesn't challenge how we think. That's how we get homophobia. That's how we get racism. That's how we get all of these things, because people can't think outside of that box. They can't think outside of the lines that they've put themselves in. And so expose yourself to new ideas, expose yourself to different art, expose yourself to unique foods, do these things, and your mind is going to have a much broader base to come up with creative solutions from.
Mm-hmm.
Not every problem will look like a nail anymore.
I know that's right. You said not every problem will look like what? Say that again.
A nail.
It might be a screw.
Yeah.
You never know. It might be something else. Yeah, change. That's it. Like, it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning. Like, that's it. Like, it's time for a change. And when you don't take or recognize that before the frustration comes, then that's when the frustration comes, because you haven't recognized that change needs to happen and you haven't made the change, or you haven't started to investigate, okay, where does the change needs to be? What kind of change does needs to happen? And then you sitting in frustration. Like, it's me making grits and letting the water boil over, with the milk and the water boil over. It's like, girl, you supposed to put something in there before now. Now it's boiling over. I know I use these crazy analogies, but y'all get me. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Like, you got to put some salt in it, and you got to make a change before a change is required. You got to. What I'm saying is, get in front of it as best you can, and by getting in front of the change is starting to feel into the uneasiness that you might be feeling in your body. That's why it's so important to be in tune with your body. That's why it's so important to be connected to higher self and source, because they will start to send you signals and signs that, okay, change is coming. For some of y'all, it might look like following astrology, knowing when the moon cycles are coming, knowing when planets are going to go into retrograde, and not wait until the shadow period or even when the retrograde happens to start to switch things up. Like, start to get ahead of things and make a change. Like, it might be time for you to be in your rest period and not being in productivity and work period. But if you um let that lapse, then here you are, hot as fish grease and pissed off. But you know, you had an opportunity to get in front of it. And I'm not, pointing fingers at anybody, because it happens to me too. I just let shit ride, and it's like, damn, here it is. Here's the pressure. It will help you elude that if you can just get in front of the change and make the change a little sooner. Um, yeah, I don't have any other thoughts on that. That's a great point, Julian.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I would say is, if your frustration is about the way the world works, or people being unkind or rude or any of that, change starts with you.
Yes,
You
it
be the
does.
change you want to see in the world, and the world will start to follow. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know where this came from for me yesterday. But I was thinking about some of the framework in the work that I do, in the coaching that I do, and thinking about self-advocacy. And and what I was saying, and I don't want to get off on any tangent or whatever, but if you don't what I was saying is, if you don't speak up for yourself, then you become complicit and part of the problem. And it's the same idea here. If you just don't do anything, if you don't make a change, then you become part of your own problem. If you just sit and wait for the world
yeah,
to change, and you don't participate in the change, then you become part of the problem. If you don't become an advocate as a white privileged person in America to, black people problems
yes,
and help us, then you become part of the problem. If
yeah,
we as black people just sit by and just watch the news and keep watching our people harm ourselves and pull ourselves down and kill ourselves, then we become part of the problem. I'm not saying you got to get out here on a picket fence, but damn, there are ways that you can be part of the solution and not be complicit to the problem by, one, voting.
yeah,
Go vote. Let your opinion and your voice and your choice be heard. So don't, if you sitting around complaining about the way the world looks and the taxes and all of that stuff, well, what have you done? What have you done to help with that?
yeah,
Are you picking up trash? Are you not littering? You know what I'm saying? Are you not putting more smog and smoke out into the atmosphere? Are you recycling? Are what are you doing? Don't be complicit. Anyway, we almost out of time. And so what I want to end off with is a quote that I found around frustration, and it says, "You've done it before and you can do it now. See the positive possibilities. Redirect the substantial energy of your frustration and turn it into positive, effective, unstoppable determination." And that is by Ralph Martin. And I don't know who Ralph Martin is, but I like the quote, and it plays well here. So here's what I think.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so check in with that frustration, and maybe it's a time for a change. I think that's the big takeaway here. Maybe it's
Yeah.
time for it to change. Maybe it's time to step away. So, how can you work with me? So, I work with spiritual professionals and spiritual business people who are feeling stuck or limited in some way, whether it's in growing their career, in finding a new job that lights them up more than their current one, or whether it's growing their spiritual business and finding their own way to market and their own unique sauce to how they run their business. And you can learn more about that on my website, www.priestevanana.com. And I use human design. I use a lot of these things in my work. I also coach gay and bisexual men, either through the coming out process, if they're not yet out, if they're uncertain of their identity and struggling to sort of reconcile that and come out. And I also coach existing people who are already out and are struggling with living their most fulfilling life and really understanding what makes them so incredibly special as a queer person and how they can enjoy making good friends, building tight community, being successful in their career, all of these things. So, and you can learn more about my work with LGBTQ people at www.queerspirituality.net.
Awesome. Thanks, Julian. You guys check that out. And if you want to work with me, first check out my website, www.rozkincaid. I help women of color step into their power and live life with peace and ease and flow and balance. A lot of us women of color, Black women, South Asian women, Indigenous women, Asian women, all of it, Caribbean women, we have this stigma on us that though we are the strong woman, that we can't show vulnerability, or there is no situation going on behind the scenes where we are feeling taken advantage of, or we have to shift and change ourselves to fit into somebody else's mold and somebody else's expectations. And so my program and empowerment private coaching supports women taking back their power, creating peace, creating balance, learning how to set boundaries and establish boundaries for healthy, functional relationships, ones that you actually want to be in, and working through this frustration that we try to hide or that boils over and turns into anger, and then we get labeled the angry Black woman. So I encourage you that if that speaks to you, visit my website and book a clarity and alignment call to see if we are aligned to work together, and to see if private coaching is for you right now. So I'm looking forward to speaking with those of you that this resonates with. And again, you can connect with me on social media at Soul Healing with Roz, or go to my website, www.rozkincaid. So, y'all, that is it. That is all we have for today. Julian, what's next? What's our topic for next week? Next time.
So we will be back on Friday, February 10th. So every other Friday, if you're new around here, and we'll be talking about awakening through fear. So we'll be looking at basically similar to what we did today. What is fear telling you, and what's the wake up call that fear is trying to send you? So be sure to check that out. It's going to be a good one, as always. Sometimes Roz and I bounce off of each other and it goes in interesting places. So check it out. And in the meantime, have an awesome weekend this weekend, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.
All right. Bye, y'all.
This has been the Soul Expansion Soundboard. Join us live every other Friday.